must not miss the Galilee 34 because I mean the talent alone that's on this stage, you're gonna love them. Like it's this incredible group of actors being wildly funny and really deep and moving. And it's gonna be like a wild, joyful, emotional ride, and then give you so much to talk about and think about and read more about after you leave. I do think it's a play that really stays on people's minds and that people keep kind of coming back to and thinking about long after it's ended. I think people should come check out Galilee 34 because I think that in this moment in time in particular, having a place to come where we can kind of wrestle together with the difficulty of being human and the mysteries of it and the struggles of it and wrestle with it in a funny way that's fun and touching and moving and deep and kind of reconnect with our own humanity and reconnect with kind of that task of like being in a society together and being in a world together and how hard it is to share a world with people that you disagree with, and yet the fact that that's sort of central to existence. I think that's more necessary than ever. I think it's a wonderful time for people to come together and see a funny story about a family trying to make a difference in the world and all the bumps they run into along the way. And it's going to be one of those ones you remember forever. So do not miss it. Hi, I'm Eleanor Burgess. I'm the playwright of Galilee 34. And if you want to learn a bit more about it, give a listen to this conversation.
Can you tell us the beginning of the play and as much as you want to give to the audience listening?
So Galilee 34 is set in Galilee, specifically in the town of Nazareth in the year 34 CE. It's some months after Jesus's crucifixion, and several of the disciples are living in the Virgin Mary's house, and trying to remember as much as they can about what Jesus told them and trying to figure out what to do next and how to preserve his legacy, advance his legacy, and they don't agree about a lot of it, about the right, about what exactly he would have wanted, and about how to move the cause forward, hopefully without endangering too many of them. And they're kind of lost and a little divided and in active mourning, and uncertain who's going to step up and be their next leader. And then this guy Saul shows up, Saul of Tarsus, and Saul says he wants to help, and Saul has some ideas. And the play follows that moment, the moment when sort of leadership, their transfers or splits from especially James or Yaakov, Jesus's younger brother, to Saul, and the beginnings of that divide, which makes it all sound like really solemn and serious, and it's funny and hopefully very human.
Can you cover the themes of your play?
Oh gosh, I think the play really looks at a bunch of things. It looks at which narratives win out and which narratives maybe get lost or forgotten or very consciously ignored. It looks at some of the Jewishness of Jesus's teachings that would get kind of carefully stripped away, at the number of women followers who were very close to him, who wouldn't get to write their own gospel. We don't have an official gospel of Mary Magdalene. We don't have an account from Jesus's mother about his childhood. So it's sort of about the moment before the stories get settled and agreed upon. what are all the stories that could have been told that didn't win. And it's about how you do good, and a bunch of people who are trying very hard to do good and to be good people and to please God and to live up to their friend's legacy. And, does it look like being a revolutionary and a rabble rouser? Does it look like being charitable? Does it look like being, spiritual? Does it involve tending to the people right next to you? Does it involve going to powerful figures and trying to talk to them? Does it involve, tending to bodies, tending to souls? Can you be a good person if you're fighting with other people about how to be good? If people who are all trying to be really holy are at each other's throats about it. And I think the biggest theme in the end is also just humanity, looking at these often sanctified figures as people who are capable of like jealousy, forgetfulness, pettiness sometimes, crises, feeling lost, feeling grumpy, feeling vulnerable, feeling annoyed. It's putting humanity back onto these stories and imagining them as like just people who are a lot like us, and doing their best.
What do you want the audience to get out of your play?
I hope that the audience laughs a ton and has fun at the theater. I think they will. I hope that the audience is moved by the ideas and possibilities on display, by the sense of what we could be, what we hope for, what we maybe lose along the way, what we've lost in kind of the sands of history, by kind of the daunting task of being human and like trying to get up again the next day in the face of what happens to us, and sort of taking a moment to process that is a daunting task. And then I hope the audience leaves with just so much to talk and think about. I hope that it's a jumping off point for a ton of conversations about, and people have already, people come up to me and talk to me about their own background with religion, their own struggles, joys, what means a lot to them, what they've always had trouble with, and kind of I hope people leave with a permission to go back to these iconic stories and look at them with fresh eyes and find new details and see new possibilities and kind of bring their own ideas and interpretation in.
What do you think will surprise the audience about your play?
I've mentioned this before, but I think people might be surprised by how funny it is and how kind of down and out, and just, you hear like Saint Peter and the Virgin Mary, and you think like they're going to be very serious and very pious, and they're, in this iteration, they've got gripes, they've got complaints, they've got achy knees, they've got, people in the group who annoy them. So I think that the fun of it all will surprise people. I think the things that are historical and are accurate to the Bible might surprise people, because there's a line early in the play, none of this happened, but all of it's true. And that's sort of a touchstone. I'm messing with some basic facts of the historical order of things a lot, and I kind of don't care because I want to tell the story I want to tell. And people have messed with these facts before a lot. But at the same time, there's also a ton of tiny details that you're kind of like, oh, that actually is exactly how it happens in the Bible, or that's actually like exactly how things went in history. And I think in general, the ability to sort of see things with fresh eyes that we think we know is what I hope that people will be surprised and delighted by, is like, you can think you know a story and then it's told differently and suddenly it's a very different story. And yet it is the same story. It's not like we're making up a new story, but the fact that you can come to these very, very familiar people and see new things and new possibilities and new angles to look at them, I hope will be really exciting for people.
I was going to ask, for those people of faith, what do you want that audience to get out of the play? And are there Easter eggs for them also?
Oh, I love that question. So there's a ton of Easter eggs for people who are people of faith, people with familiarity with the Gospels, and the letters in the Book of Acts, people who are familiar with the Tanakh, people who are familiar with Hebrew scripture, people who are familiar with the history too. Like if you're like a Roman Empire nerd, if you're devout Jewish scholar, if you're a devout Christian, like I think there's a lot of little things that are extra fun for you and extra illuminating. There's kind of a whole other level the play's operating on, which is like, oh my gosh, that is exactly how that story is told in the book of John. And oh, that is what that's going to become. I think that for people of faith, it's especially exciting for people who already have some familiarity with these stories, or a lot of familiarity with these stories, to have a fresh way of looking at them and a fresh perspective on them that sort of, I think, encourages, hopefully, a new, deeper appreciation for certain elements of the teachings, or of, what could have been and what was. And the characters on stage are people of faith, having very ancient struggles that people of faith have always had about, how do I actually do this? Like if I'm very, very eager to embrace these books and these teachings and to do it right, what does that actually look like? Because I keep trying and sometimes it doesn't go well, and I'm confused about exactly what God wants from me and exactly why I don't understand certain things. And so I think the people on stage are all people of faith struggling with the things that people of faith struggle with every day. And so I hope that people will find a lot of grace, really, like for our humanity and our failings and our trouble with these things that we've had trouble with from the very beginning. And so much of the play is about the distance between divinity and humanity, and between our aspirations and who we actually are, and trying to find some level of like, how do you make peace with that? How do you live with that? How do you keep trying even when you're always going to fail, is so much of what the play is about. And I think it's, in that sense, hopefully offering a lot of grace for people of faith who can see their own struggles on stage and their own high moments and hopes, and the things that they question, the things that they wonder about, the things that inspire them, the things that they're striving for. Yeah, it's a place of like humor and excitement and possibility and grace. I've said that word before, but I do think theater is a place where you can feel that, and it's going to be awesome.
Is there anything else about your play, Galilee 34, that you want to mention?
It's fun. The play is fun. The play is a lot of fun. Yeah, it's fun and it's deep, and I think people will really enjoy it. Come check out a show that is funny, heartbreaking, potent, and it's going to be one of those ones you remember forever. So do not miss it.